could always be to, you know, maybe just have your feet at the edge of the, wherever you are, settee or something, just so that you've got something to push your feet into. But don't worry about it if you don't. Okay, I'm going to mute you all. We definitely want our belts though this morning. And yeah, so nice quad stretch that we can do at the wall that might actually just be too much for a lot of us. So we'll have options anyway. Okay, so I think I've muted you all, haven't? Hopeless. Okay, we'll come and just settle down with a little bit of breath work first. So if you can come to seated, cross legs, sit up on a block if you need to, or on your blanket or on your bolster, whatever makes it feel nicer for you, then do that. So it's quite nice, especially if we haven't already done an hour's practice. It's quite nice to just raise the level of the hips a little bit, isn't it? So it's a bit more comfortable for some reason. Okay, you are all muted. Okay, so coming to seated in your cross legs position, on a block, on a blanket, on a cushion, on your bolster, whatever. And then we'll take the flesh away from the sit bones, just so that you give yourself that nice broader base. And then you can start to root down through the sit bones and lift your spine up. Remember to just bring your head back a little bit in space so that you're not leaning forward. So we want to ideally have the head over the tailbone, and then soften the shoulders away from the ears. Begin to relax your abdomen, let go of your facial muscles. And if you're comfortable to close your eyes. And then beginning to breathe in and out through the nose. So we'll do a few rounds of the 3-part yogic breath. So we're all quite familiar with all of these things now. So I'm not going to break it down as much as I would for beginners, but just let your natural breath become established to begin with. Just a nice, easy flow of air in and out through the nose. Okay, exhaling everything out. And then on the next inhale, just begin to fill up, first of all, right down into the low belly. And then move on, expand beneath the ribs. And then expand beneath your collarbones. At the top of the inhale, pause for a moment. And then as you exhale through the nose, emptying out beneath the collarbones first, then below the ribs, and then into the abdomen. And then pause for a moment as well at the bottom of the exhale. And then start again. Inhale, abdomen, ribs, collarbones. Pause for at the top of the inhale and then exhale beneath the collarbones, beneath the ribs, and then the abdomen. Pause at the bottom of the exhale and then again inhale, abdomen, ribs, collarbones. Pause and then exhale, collarbones, ribs, abdomen. Pause. Keep going. Inhale, abdomen, ribs, collarbones. Pause. And then exhale, collarbones, ribs, abdomen. Okay, just do another 3 rounds of that in your own time. And then just return to your natural breath. Just observing where you feel the breath the most. So that's be different for all of us, won't it? It might be your nostrils, it could be the back of your throat, it could be your chest, heart center, anywhere. Just wherever you feel the sensation of the breath the most, be with that sensation. Okay, and then we'll bring the hands together in front of the heart. When you do that, place each finger together individually. Try to press the outside edges of the hands together as well, and then the heels of the hands come into the chest. Just slightly pointing the fingers away, relax the shoulders. And try to really feel the contact that you have between the hands. And anywhere that there's gaps, can you eliminate them? Just gently pressing things together. And then maybe you can decrease the size of the space in the center of the palms where the hands don't meet. See if you can just decrease the size of that space. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Inhaling, exhaling, chin to the chest. And then when you're there, smoothing any expression that you still have on your face, softening the skin on the temples. And then on the next exhale, we'll release the hands. And then inhale to gently raise the head and blink the eyes open. So the 3-part yogic breath, it's quite simple, isn't it? It's a nice way to just learn to utilize everything when we breathe. And it's that diaphragmatic breathing, isn't it, of course, that has really been shown to help us to just calm our nervous system down. So it's a nice one to learn that. Okay, if you can get your mat against a wall, great. I'm just going to bring the top edge of mine against the wall. And I think a lot of us have done this before. It's quite good to use the wall. It just helps you with that.
We may have lost the connection. We've got quite a lot of wind here at the moment, so it might be the same for her.
Caroline, if you speak, we cannot hear you.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Right, my internet's just crashed out. It did that earlier. If it happens again, I'm going to tether. So don't disappear, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know how much of that you missed because I was so focused on the breathing. But if you can get your mat to the wall, great. If you can't, don't worry about it. Grab your belt. Don't disappear. I'll use my data if I have to. It's always a Friday morning this happens. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's all of my neighbours go on Amazon on Friday morning. I don't know. Anyway, coming to having your belt. Coming to have your feet at the wall. And then about hip width apart, maybe slightly wider. And then the knees are bent to begin with. And we come down onto our back with that little bend in the knees. And then we take hold of the mat with the hands and then just adjust your back of your shoulder blades, bring them in a little bit. And then we, keeping hold of the mat, press the heels into the wall so that you lengthen or straighten the legs. And it's like you feel your trapezius muscles being drawn down at the back. So you've pushed the heels into the wall to straighten. And then you should get a little bit of sensation of everything being dragged down at the back. So back of the shoulders, trapezius, even the low back gets lengthened there. And if you didn't feel it, do it again, rebend the knees. Take the outer edges of the mat and then straighten. So even if you've got your top, that'll drag down and it'll do the same thing. It'll sort of draw the trapezius down. And you get that, I'm always going on about that, aren't I? Shoulder blades down. This is the same action here. And you can really feel it there. And you'll feel the low back as well. And then the heels are quite firmly at the wall or whatever you've got them against, hopefully. And if you don't, then sorry about that, but we'll sort of have to improvise. Okay, so we've actually come now into more of a Supta Tadasana, isn't it? So we're not in corpse pose, we're in Supta Tadasana, so we're quite active. The heels are at the wall, shoulder blades are drawing down the back. And then can you just start to think about the backs of the thighs moving down a little bit. That action that I go on about a lot as well, front of the thighs to the back of the thighs. Try to get a little bit of that action. And you might start to feel the backs of the thighs moving down. Again, everything's a little bit more active, isn't it, than as if we were just lying down. And then notice the back ribs. So have the back ribs kind of leapt up a little bit. So can you bring the front ribs in and start to ground down a bit more through the back ribs? So it's, again, something else I go on about a lot, isn't it? Back ribs, bringing them in. And when you do that, you straight away, we're engaging the core, even just lying here like this. So that is our Supta Tadasana. Okay, keeping the left heel at the wall. Make sure you can reach your belt. We're just going to press that left heel into the wall. So it's quite active, this left leg. But just bring the right knee into the chest to begin with. So we just take the hand around the knee or the shin. And then just draw that knee in. Still hopefully got that sensation of the trapezius being drawn down the upper back. So the shoulders are staying drawing down away from the ears. And that right knee just comes in as close as you can. And you might just circle the ankle one way. And then back the other way. Just bring a little bit of life into that ankle joint. And then you might just want to take that right knee a little bit from side to side as well, so that you just lubricate a little bit into that right hip joint. And that can be surprisingly strong, especially if you're doing a lot of strong practice. These hip flexors can get really quite sore, can't they? So just be a little bit gentle there. You can just move into that area there, warm it up a bit, and then come back to the central position. We'll take the belt. Place the belt around the ball of the foot. So I do it differently. You can do it in different ways, this. You can use different parts of the foot. It has a different effect. But use the ball of the foot. So it's actually the ball of the big toe and the ball of all of the feet, all of the toes even. And then we unfold the leg up towards the ceiling. Okay, so when I'm teaching this and I'm with people in the same room, it's easier to see what you're all doing. But one of the things that I often see, there's a few things that I often see, is that there's a tendency to maybe hold the belt in one hand. Well, don't do that, because if you're doing that at the moment, when we start, it sort of makes you narrow across the collarbones. You can feel that. If you hold with one hand, it makes you sort of, the chest shrinks a little bit. If you take both hands, and you can keep the arms wide and you've still got that nice openness across the chest. So for now, keep the belt in one end in either hand. The other thing that we tend to do is that outer edge of the foot reaches up towards the ceiling, doesn't it? So we tend to let the arch collapse down, and then actually we're just bringing the stretch into the outer leg and the outer ankle and ligaments, and that's not great either. So we want to keep that foot completely flat, as if you could stand it on the ceiling. And you're all quite experienced, so it's different. But very often, if I have people who are quite new to all of this, and you say that, and then they think, yeah, they've done it. And actually, they haven't at all. They've still got that angle. And if I go around and move their foot, they'll still go back to it. It's like you learn that awareness, don't you, the more you practice. And when you're new to it, you just don't have that sort of connection. So make sure that foot is completely flat. The other thing is that when we are quite flexible, there's a tendency to bring the leg as close towards you as you can, and then you lose all of the connection and control. So even if you can bring the leg all the way over your head here, don't. Keep it straight up so that the heel is directly over your sit bone. And that might be too much. If your hamstrings are really tight, well, I think we're all fine with this, but you know, you can always be on less of an angle. Try to have the leg straight, whatever it is, but resist the temptation to just draw it as close as you can, because as soon as you do that, you lose the connection with the back of the hip, we lose the connection with the back of the leg, and it's not what we're thinking about today. Okay, so now that I've got all of that out of the way, the other thing that happens here when we lift this leg is that we shorten the right hand side of the body. It's just a natural sort of physiological thing. We do it in everything, don't we? Our lunges and everything, we sort of shrink whichever side of the body the leg's lifted. So can you reach that outer right hip away? So it's almost as if you are trying to push the outside of your right bum down to the bottom of the mat. And if you get that action, you might well see that your inner heel moves a little bit more to the midline, and it will feel different as well into the back of the right leg, especially if your hamstrings are tight. That can make quite a difference. So try and get that lengthening action. To check that we have, I'm going to take the belt into the left hand, even though it makes us narrow across, into that crease at the top of the leg and push quite hard. So that's another way of doing it. That's another way of leveling the pelvis. And you should feel a difference there when you do that. But make sure when you do that, that you don't start to let the arch collapse again. So keep the foot flat. And it can start to feel quite intense, even if you are more on the flexible side. You can still feel. Okay, so the reason I don't want us to just sort of lose it and bring the leg as close to us as we can is that if you can now, in that position with the heel over the tailbone, pull, you can start to really draw the top of the thigh bone into the socket, and then that has a sort of releasing action into the low back. So you start to release into the sacrum area. It's quite subtle, but it does do that. And that's what I want us to do this morning. I want us to release all of that sort of low half of the body, all of the places where we get tense. Okay. And then we're going to take the belt into the right hand. We've forgotten about the left leg a little bit, so press that left heel into the wall. Get that left leg active. Back of the left thigh moves down. You could take your left hand and just rest it onto the left thigh, or onto the left hip actually. Keep it onto the left hip. Inhale. As we exhale, we're going to start to take the right leg over to the right, but keep grounding that left heel into whatever it is you can. And don't let that left hip move. So the hip wants to start to lift, don't let it. And if you feel that you're going to start to lose control, just stop and don't come that far. Keep that left hip completely still and down, and you can use the heel into the wall to help you to keep that control. And again, this feels completely different than if we just sort of don't control the pelvis. You could bring your elbow down, your right elbow, if it comes that far. You might straighten the arm and come further down. But whatever you're doing, don't let go of what's happening in that left hip. So don't let the pelvis roll at all. You're totally in control. Okay, if you've come that far and you're still feeling good with all of that, you can start to push into the ball of the big toe on the right foot. And then notice again what a difference that makes. It's actually quite a lot. If you get that action, you'll feel a totally different stretch there. Can you start to now think about your navel turning a little bit? I'm losing my voice, got a frog in my throat. Turning a little bit to the left here. So it's as if you try to turn your tummy to the left, and notice what a difference that makes as well. It's quite a lot. Okay, inhale to bring the leg back up, staying as in control as you can, and then release. Okay, so that's quite strong. Unless you're very, very flexible in the hamstring, that's quite strong. Okay, we're just going to bend the knees again and creep back towards the wall, and then do the same thing again. So take the outer edges of the mat and then push the heels into the wall to draw the trapezius muscle down. You can let your clothes do that for you, and then come to straightening the legs where you've got a good contact with that right heel and the wall. And then to begin with, we'll just bring the left knee into the chest. So just warm up a little bit into this hip socket. Just bring that left knee in. You might find that really intense. I can do sometimes if I've been doing loads like we have. Okay, and then you might circle the ankle one way and back the other way. Just warm a little bit up into that joint. And then you might just move the knee a bit from side to side. So just gently. You will find places, no doubt, that are quite stiff when you do that. It always amazes me, actually, how tender that can be. Okay. And then we'll take the belt around the ball of the foot. And it's just a great way to work on our hamstring flexibility, this, without putting any strain on our back at all. Okay, opening and straightening the leg up. So all of those things, again, make sure the foot is flat. You've got the belt around the ball of the foot. We'll keep holding either end of the belt at the moment while you sort of set up into this. Make sure that you're not letting the arch drop down, and then you can start to think about that outer left hip lengthening away, keeping that right heel quite firm, leg quite firm, so the right leg is active as well. And you feel that connection from your heel all the way to the sit bone. The back of the hip is down. If we start to bring the leg closer, we lose that contact. And then you can pull here. And that action of drawing the top of the right thigh bone back down into the hip socket, it's a subtle release for the low back, but it does. So just hold it there. Keep the leg as straight as you can. That's another thing we do, isn't it? We think the leg is straight, and it actually might not be. So make sure it's as straight as you can be. Feel that action of the top of the thigh bone drawing down back into the hip socket. We'll take the belt into the right hand, use the left thumb to push quite strongly. You can be quite strong with that. So if when you do that, you don't feel anything, press harder, you can be strong. Hips are strong. And you'll feel a difference. If you get that, then the pelvis is completely level. Okay, then we'll take the belt into the left hand. Right hand comes to the right hip. Keep that action if you can. Press the heel into something, then keep the action. And then inhale, exhale, coming over to the left slowly. So the idea is to stay in control. That right hip doesn't move, the right leg doesn't move. The left leg is moving independently of the pelvis and the hip. And then you might lift your elbow. You might find you can come all the way and straighten the arm. Doesn't matter. Make sure you stay in control. That's what matters. That right hip hasn't moved. The right heel is reaching into the wall. And then you can start maybe to push into the ball of the big toe on the left foot. And then you're really isolating everything into that leg, aren't you? Independently of the pelvis. And then you can turn your navel a little bit to the right as well. Okay, on the next inhale, we'll come back up. And then release. Okay, come back to your Supta Tadasana. Maybe bend the knees a little bit again if you have got the wall. We're just going to do that again. Draw the traps down, straighten. You feel that trapezius coming down. You feel that space around the base of the neck, maybe a little bit at the low back as well. And then we'll just come back to the right leg. Take the belt around the ball of the foot. And then straight away, you know what to look for. Flat foot, outer right hip reaches away. And you can take the right thumb into that crease and push as well if you want to. If you want to get that extra length, you can do that. Okay, and then take the belt into the right hand, left hand to the hip. Inhale, exhale, with control. Don't let that left hip move. Don't let the left leg move. The pelvis is not moving at all. The right leg is moving independently of the pelvis. And then you can push into the ball of the right foot. Navel turns to the left. Stay in control. So if you need to stop and come back, do that rather than losing control. And then inhale, come back up. We'll switch again. So you can maybe adjust to get that nice pulling action with the trapezius, and then ball of the foot. Leg is, heel is over the hip bone even. And then left thumb into that crease, push away, get that lengthening on the left-hand side of the body so the pelvis is completely level. Right heel is grounding into the wall. Take the belt into the left hand. Right hand onto the right hip. Inhale and then exhale. Come over. In control. Don't let your pelvis roll. You want to move that leg independently of the pelvis. Push into the ball of the big toe, left foot. And then the navel turns to the right. And then inhale to come back up. Okay, from there, release. And then we're going to take the belt and place it around both heels. So onto the heels now, both heels. And then we'll straighten the legs up from there. Okay, and then we're just going to take a moment here as well to say, if you've got knobbly knees like me, actually, it's quite hard. Because the knees kind of knobbly, knock knees, because the knees kind of collapse. Yeah, my younger teacher makes me, and you can do this actually if you've got knock knees, have something between the knees just to keep that, stop that collapsing in that happens with people like me. Okay, so we've got the belt around the heels, and then try to again get the heels directly above your sit bones, and then you're going to pull down. Now this as well is really quite nice. You might even feel that sort of subtly in the low back. It's a bit of a release. Nice way to work on that hamstring flexibility and also that awareness of just what we're doing with our legs. Pull down if you can. Pull even harder maybe. Get that subtle opening in the sort of low back sacrum area. And it's a much safer way to do all of this sort of hamstring flexibility work than when we're in our seated poses, because we can't use our back here. We can release our back here. Okay, you might see if you can bring the legs a bit closer towards you now, but only if that's okay with your back. Try and keep the sort of sacrum area down when you do that, if you draw the legs a bit closer. So again, a nice way to work on that flexibility and that control, that awareness. And then bring them back up and we'll release. Put the belt to one side, just bring the knees in, give yourself a little squeeze or a little bit of back massage. And then we'll take the hands behind the shin, thighs, and rock up. If you would prefer to roll over to the side, you can. Just come up, however, and then we'll come straight over to all fours. Okay, and then when we've got to our all fours position, stack your joints as always, wrists below the shoulders, knees beneath the hips. And then just take a moment here in a neutral tabletop. Start to think about, make sure you're not hanging into the low back, so the navel's gently drawing in, the ribs are gently, softly drawing in, and you've got that little bit of pressure into the hands as well, so you're not hanging into the shoulders. And just take a moment here and just see if you can find a little bit more length. This is subtle as well. So it's as if you have a string on your collarbones pulling you forward and strings on your sit bones pulling you back, and you're trying to get a sort of equal and opposite action there of subtle lengthening. And you know, it's very subtle. It's not really beginner's stuff at all, is it? Because when you're new to all this, you just don't have that sort of connection and awareness. It's subtle. Find length through the collarbones, through the sit bones. Maybe you notice that you're not getting the same degree of lengthening on each side of the waist, so equalize it. Well done. Okay, from there, we're going to tuck the toes, come up into a downward facing dog. So hips up and back. If you can come to static in your downward facing dog straight away, then do that. Try to make sure that both hands do the same thing. Index fingers are pointing forward, and then we spread the other fingers wide. And then we push the mat away with the hands. Now, after that hamstring work that we've just done, downward facing dog should feel a little bit different. Can you start to think about pressing the front of the thigh to the back of the thigh? The shin bones as well, they move back. And even if the heels aren't comfortably coming to the mat, although I'm sure they all are with us, but even if they're not, you can still think about reaching into the outer heels as you press the whole of the front of the leg to the back of the leg. And then maybe you can find more lift up out of the shoulders as well. Maintain that softness around the base of the neck. So those hamstring warm-ups can just help us to really get that awareness as well in the legs here in downward facing dog, can't we? Okay, from downward facing dog, inhale, look forward, step, hop, float, walk, tiptoe, come forward. And then once you're at the front of your mat, forward bend. Inhale to come up, bringing the hands to touch, and then exhale. Okay, I'm just going to do 2 sun salutation A, just to move around a little bit and warm us up. Skip them if you don't want to do them. Modify them if you want to. Okay, inhale, big circle. As we exhale, hinge forward. Inhaling for your halfway lift, chest lengthens forward. That's the same action there actually, it's subtle. As if you've got a string on your collarbones, lengthen the chest forward. And then as you exhale, bend the knees, step it back. Use the knees to come down, of course, if you want to, or your chaturanga. Inhaling for a back bend, upward facing dog or cobra. And then exhaling back. We'll just take 3 breaths in downward facing dog. But can you get that front of the thigh to the back of the thigh? You've got much more awareness into the hamstrings now. 1, soften around the base of the neck. 2, shin bones move back as well. And 3, and then inhaling to look forward, stepping, hopping, floating, walking, come forward. And then lengthen the chest forward when you're there. Exhale, forward bend. Inhaling to come up. Bringing the hands to touch, and then exhale. Okay, another one, inhale, big circle. Exhaling to come forward. Inhale, halfway lift, collarbones forward. Exhale, bend the knees. Step it back. Use the knees to come down. Or your chaturanga, remember, don't come too low. Inhaling for a back bend of choice, up dog or cobra. And then exhale back. Downward facing dog, we'll just take 3 breaths again. 1, so shin bones back, front of the leg to the back of the leg. 2, softening around the base of your neck. And 3, and then inhaling to look forward, stepping, hopping, floating, walking. And then once you're there, forward bend. Okay, inhale, lengthen the chest forward. Get that action again, lengthening forward through the collarbones. And then exhaling to forward bend. Okay, from here, we're going to bend into the knees and step the right foot back. So we're going to actually come straight up into a warrior 2. So it's a little bit of a different way than I normally come into it. Step the right foot back. Make sure you're lining up heel to arch. And then we'll do a circle with the right arm out around. And up and come straight up into a warrior 2. Look like Cousin It there when I saw this out with all my hair. Okay, make sure you're lining up heel to arch. And then shoulders relaxing down, shoulder blades pressing. So I'm really doing a couple of the standing poses just to warm up into the hips a little bit more. Remember in your warrior 2 that you want to keep this inner right thigh lifting up. And can you move down from the top of the left thigh as you come down? So again, you know, this isn't really beginner's stuff at all, is it? I wouldn't say that to beginners. But this is actually where we want to move from in our warrior 2. It's the top of the left thigh. So it's that thinking about having a block in front of the left knee. The left knee can't go any further forward, but you're sinking deeper into your warrior 2. And it's coming from here. It's quite strong. Gazing over the left middle finger. Keep relaxing the shoulders. Make sure you haven't started to do that thing and reach forward. Keep the torso upright. Shoulder blades pressing into the upper back. And it's almost like we want to get the dorsal spine or the thoracic spine there pressing forward to the chest as you bring the shoulder blades in. Keep the right inner thigh lifting. Inhale. And then exhale, we'll bring the hands down. And we'll just step the right foot back. Okay, so same thing. Other side. Step the left foot back quite far, setting up your lining up heel to arch, and then big circle with the left arm to find your warrior 2. And then once you come up into warrior 2, just check your details. Inner left thigh is lifting, and can you move down from here? That's where we want to start to feel that movement in our warrior 2. Same with warrior 1, actually. Same with everything where we're bending the leg like this. Imaginary block in front of the right knee and then come deeper, but you're moving from the hip, that place that we've warmed up already. Press the shoulder blades in. Dorsal spine is what my younger teacher calls it. This, I guess it's the cervical spine, isn't it? Or the joint between the thoracic and the cervical there. At the top, between the shoulder blades at the top. It's like you're trying to move that part of your spine to the chest. Collarbones widen. Come deeper, keep that inner left thigh lifting as well. Still reaching into that outer left heel as well, actually. Okay, and then that actually can feel really intense, can't it, into that right hip. Try to be getting the movement coming from there. Okay, inhale. Exhale, we'll cartwheel the hands down and step the left foot back to the front of the mat again. And then forward bend. Inhale, lengthen the chest forward. We're going to step the right foot back again. So again, as wide as you can. This time we'll come straight up into a side angle. So you might want to use a block here. You can keep the left hand down on the outside of the left foot. It's the same line up with the feet. You could use your left hand to block. If none of it feels good, then you could bring the elbow to knee version. But if you can keep the hand down, great. And then we're going to reach the right arm up. Same thing here. Can you be moving down from that crease at the top of the left thigh? Keep the front knee opening out, inner right thigh lifts, ground into the outer right heel, and then we turn the palm forward and bring the right arm over. Turn your chest here. So if being in this full deep version makes it really difficult for you to turn your chest, then use your block or bring the elbow to the knee. We want to make this an open face twist, remember. Left side ribs press forward, right side ribs draw back, and you can definitely feel it in your left hip here, can't you? Okay, inhale, exhale, hand comes down. We'll step the right foot back. And then take the left foot back. Same thing. So we can come straight into the deeper version of side angle. If you don't like it, you don't want to do it, use your block, use your elbow. But if you can keep the right hand down, do try to have that action of the bending into the knee and coming lower, coming from the top of the right thigh. So that crease at the top of the leg is where we're moving from. Inner left thigh lifts. And then we'll take the left arm up, turn your chest. Keep that left inner thigh lifting, reach into the outer left heel. Can you initiate the depth of the pose from the top of the right thigh bone? Turn the left palm forward and then upper arm close to the ear. Turn your chest. So if you're compromising that openness with the chest, being so deeply into this, then use a block or bring the elbow to the knee. It's not easy, this is intense into the hips. Okay, inhale, exhale, come down, step the left foot forward. Forward bend. Going to do that again. We're going to do a triangle pose this time. So step the right foot back. It's always the same lineup, isn't it, for the feet, most of the standing poses. So this one, we're straightening into the front leg. You could, so, you know, eventually we've got the hand all the way down in Trikonasana, but you can take the ankle, you can take the shin, so do whatever. So do that. If you first of all bring your left hand to your ankle or your shin, you can keep the chest facing down for now. Push into the ball of the big toe, left foot. Make sure that you have got your left knee pointing over the toes. Can you here start to think about tucking your left buttock underneath? So feel that action. That's again quite subtle. Can you draw your left buttock under? And notice how that helps you to keep that left knee pointing over the toes. And then from there, we'll open up. Reach the right arm up. And if you're too low again and you struggle and the chest is facing down, then come up a little bit. We want to keep the left buttock tucking under, and that also helps you to turn the chest as well. It keeps the left knee pointing safely over the toes. It helps us to start to turn the chest. Reach the right arm up. Can you draw the right side ribs back? Press the left side ribs forward. Is your tailbone pointing to the back of the heel? Can you keep that left buttock tucking under? And then you might start to think as well about the inner left calf moving forward. Same action. We do a lot of work in the shoulders here too, don't we? So remember that. Think about pressing that right shoulder blade into the upper back as you turn. Hard, isn't it, Trikonasana? Okay, take a breath, and then we'll bend into the front knee, take the hands down, step the right foot back forward, step the left foot back, set up in Trikonasana. Okay, so you might have the handle weight down, you might not, you might take the shin, you might take the ankle. Before we do anything else, get that action. Can you tuck your right buttock under? Feel what that does in the hip joint when you do that. It keeps your knee safely pointing over the toes as well. Tuck the buttock under. It already starts to help you to turn the chest, doesn't it? And then we open up. Keep that buttock action tucking under. And then tailbone to the back of the left heel. If you need to come up higher, come up higher. Just adjust it. Use blocks as well if you need to. Keep that right buttock tucking under. Push into the ball of the big toe, right foot. Inner right calf is moving forward as well. Turn your chest. Can you get that left shoulder blade to press into the upper back now as well? Turn. Makes quite a big difference, that bum action. And you feel it in the hip joint as well. Okay, inhale. As we exhale, we'll take the hands down. This time we'll come to a downward facing dog. So just step back to downward facing dog and come into a static downward facing dog. If you can think about fronts of the legs moving to the back of the legs, you might find it feels much nicer now in your downward facing dog, being warmed up into the hips and the backs of the legs. Press the front of the leg to the back of the leg. Soften around the base of the neck. Okay, I'm going to come back to our hip flexors now. So on the next inhale, take the right leg up, whoops, kick the wall, and then exhale, step it forward. Okay, we'll drop the left knee and tuck the toes. Okay, you can adjust this, you can use a blanket, you can pad out your knees, do whatever, and then just let the hips settle just for a moment, let the hips descend. So this is harder for some of us than others, isn't it? So it depends where you hold your tension. This can feel quite intense for me after a week of strong practice. Let the hips descend, chest lengthens forward. Okay, from there, bring the hands to the top of the right knee and come up. And then let the hips sink forward and down. Just check that your right knee's not coming way beyond the ankle there. I know that we all know that. I'm watching my videos back and so repetitive, it is annoying. So I know that we all know that. Okay, we're going to start to push the top of the right knee away and bring the chin to the chest and just widen between the shoulder blades there. And that can start to get quite intense for your left thigh, quadriceps, hip flexors. So just make it as intense as you want it to be, as is appropriate for you. So we're easing our way into that. Okay, these muscles that we're stretching now can tend to get really tight when we have back issues. It can be really nice and helpful to release the back. Okay, and then we'll release the right hands and just come into a standard low lunge, bring the arms up, hips forward and down, ribs in, shoulder blades down back. Inhale, exhale, hands come down. We'll step back to downward facing dog. Notice the difference that you feel between the legs now. Okay, and then the other side, inhale, left leg up, whoops, exhale, step it forward. And then we'll drop the right knee, adjust it, you might take it further back, you might not. Stack your left knee over the ankle and tuck the toes, let yourself settle in there for a moment. So it's common to get there and grip, isn't it? So let go of the grips. And then we'll bring the hands to the top of the left thigh. Push, come up, let the hips sink forward and down. And then that action, you're pushing the top of the knee away as you bring the chin to the chest and widen between the shoulder blades. So these muscles as well as being involved in back problems, this is what we really want to be working on for our back bends as well. Because if these muscles are tight, then it just doesn't work really at all for the back bend. Make that as intense as you want it to be, remember. It can get really intense, can't it? Chin to the chest, widen between the shoulder blades. And then releasing, let the hips sink down. We'll bring the arms out around and up. Shoulder blades down the back. Left hip shaves back. Maybe you gaze up. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. And then again, observe what's the difference now with the legs. Quite intense. Okay. Inhale, take the right leg up again, kick the wall again if you'll be, and then step forward again. This time we'll keep the knee up. So adjust it, make sure the right knee is over the ankle, let the hips sink down, chest forward. So the hips are moving down, the chest is moving forward, back of the left thigh lifts, and we start to reach back through that left heel. So again, nice and intense for those hip flexors. Can you let the hips sink down a bit more? Can you lift the back of the left thigh a bit more? Can you lengthen the chest forward a bit more? And then we'll take an inhale from there. And as we exhale, we'll switch. So step the left foot forward and take the right foot back. And then again, let the hips sink down, chest forward, back of the right thigh lifts. Have that awareness of what you're doing. So everything wants to sag on the right hand side. Keep lifting the back of the thigh. Strong stretch. Inhale, exhale, we'll switch again. Again, let the hips sink down, but keep lifting the back of the left thigh. Chest is forward. Inhaling, exhaling to switch. Keep lifting the back of the right thigh, keep lengthening the chest forward, inhale, exhale, back to downward facing dog. Again, notice the difference. Okay, in your downward facing dog now, can you push the shin bones back? Notice that space that makes around the top of the thigh, the groin area. Okay, inhale the left leg up. Exhale, step it forward. Come back to that lunge position, which I love so much. Hips down, chest forward, back of the right thigh lifts. Make sure you're not sagging, you're not drooping, you're not dropping anywhere. Inhaling, exhaling to switch. Down and lifts, chest forward. Inhale, exhale to switch. And then again, inhale, exhale to switch. Adjusting, feel that lovely stretch. Inhale, exhale, downward facing dog. And then just notice the difference that you feel in your groin area. Press the shin bones back, make more space there. Push the mat away with the hands. Okay, from here we'll come down to the knees. So we're going to do this Virasana now, or a more intense version at the wall. If actually I thought we were going to have Taz with us this morning, he must have stayed in bed. If you've got knee problems, then Virasana is not great at all, is it, no matter what way you do it. So you can always come onto your front and do how we do sometimes when we come into Sphinx, and bend the knee up, and you can use a belt there and work on stretching the quads that way. So you can do that variation if you don't like any of this with your knees. You can come to half Virasana with your right knee bending back and your left leg forward, and you take the calf flesh out of the way, and you can come with that. If your hips are really uneven in that position, then you can use a block under your left hip. Okay, so you can do that. If you want an even deeper quad stretch, we're going to come to the wall to do this. So, you know, your version, again, your variation, what suits you. So if we're coming to the wall, the knee comes to the skirting board and the foot comes up the wall. Now, if you've got the knee right at the skirting board, that might be way too much, especially if your quads are tight. So you might just bring the knee a little bit further forward, and you can always use your blanket there as well if you need to help that right knee. And then we're going to maneuver that left foot forward, so we're back in that sort of low lunge position, and see if we can come upright there. Okay, so what tends to happen if you come this far into this, what tends to happen is the bum's sticking back and we're kind of arching into the low back, aren't we? So can you tilt the pelvis forward and try and get the tailbone pointing down, and bring your upper back towards the wall, and you can bring your hands back to the top of the right thigh. Okay, so remember, if all of this is too much, you can do the Virasana version with your knee bent like we did in Yin on Wednesday. Or you could come onto your front and do the Sphinx and use your belt. So, you know, there's options here to target the same place. This is intense, but it's so nice to release the front of the thigh, the hip flexors. Okay, so try to keep the tailbone pointing down, and you're maneuvering the pubic bone forward, just slowly and gently tilting the pelvis. Relaxing that thigh as much as you can. That's intense, isn't it? Okay, especially if you've been dancing a lot, Rachel. Okay, then we'll come down, release. And if you're feeling decrepit after that, then that's not unusual. You might just shake the legs out. Okay, and then we'll do other side. So left knee towards the skirting board, if that's going to be way too much, about 1 inch in front. And then that right foot comes forward. Same as with everything, might be much harder on this side. It is, everything for me on this side is tighter on the left. It's funny that, because it's much weaker on the right. So adjust it. We don't want to have the knee so close to the skirting board that we are really arching in the low back to stay there. So we want to try to be able to be as upright as we can, have the tailbone down, and the pubic bone moving forward, and you can just rest your hands onto the top of your right knee. And keep that sort of tilting action going as you loosen into that stretch a bit more. And this will really help with our back bends as well, this. And I know it doesn't seem like it should, but it does. Because very often it's this part of us that is really tight. So you can do the Virasana version on the floor as well, of course. Use a block, do whatever. Just breathe as well. Keep trying to tilt the pelvis forward, staying heavy in the tailbone. Don't let that happen. I know that it makes it feel a bit easier, but don't let it happen. Okay, and then we'll release from whatever version we're in. And then we'll walk our way forward back to downward facing dog. Just notice what a difference that makes. And you can get that action of the shin bones pressing back, and you really feel that space now at the top of the thighs maybe. When you press the shin bones back, you make more space there. Can you outer upper arms back, all of that usual stuff, press harder into the index finger, base of the index finger, base of the thumb, push and lift. Find as much length as you can. And press the shin bones back, press the fronts of the thighs to the backs of the thighs. And breathe, of course. Feel the whole of your pose in your downward facing dog. Can you feel the contact with your feet and the mat? Can you feel the sensation, the difference it makes when you push the shins back? When you press the fronts of the thighs to the back of the thighs? All of those muscles that we've warmed up a lot already, you feel. Find more length. Okay, and then from here we'll drop down to the knees. Okay, just finding your way to your bum, and then we'll cross the legs. So right shin in front. Oh man, I can't just get too carried away. I need to do some longer classes, don't I? Okay, right shin in front. And then we'll take the arms up. Inhale. And then exhale, come forward to your degree. When you need to release the hands down, and just walk the hands a bit further forward. So this is like me being kinder than a fire log. Reach the chest forward, keep the elbows soft, and then maybe you relax the head and neck. So now we've moved round to that little piriformis muscle, which is beneath your glutes, and it also gets tight, and it's also responsible for postural problems and for pain problems. So you can probably feel it, can't you, in this position? I can. Okay, and then inhale, come back up. And then from here we'll find cow face. So we just maneuver the left foot a bit further to the left, the right foot can cross over, and then stack the knees as much as you can. Remember, don't force it, so if they're not close, don't worry about it, we work on that. The heels come in, and then we'll take the arms up, inhale. And then exhale, come forward again to your degree as always here. And this is just a little bit more intensely into that little piriformis muscle. You can actually feel the whole shape of the muscle. I don't know about you. This muscle is responsible for causing about a back pain. Often. Relax, release. Okay, and then inhaling, come back up. Come into that twist, actually, that we've done a couple of times from here. So that left shin comes a little bit further forward, and then the right foot comes more just to the outside of the left knee, actually. No, you can keep it where it was. Bring that left shin a bit further forward and then hook your left elbow around the right knee. Take the right hand behind, twist, and you can draw that right thigh towards you. And again, you'll feel that. Piriformis may be more outer thigh, but we're still releasing the same area. Draw the right shoulder back, turn and gaze over the right shoulder. Can you press the left side ribs forward, draw the right side ribs back? And then inhaling forward, exhaling, release, switching the cross. So we've got left shin in front. And then take the arms up, inhale. Exhale, come forward. Again, to your degree. So don't force this. If you find that the sit bones want to really roll and then you're out of control, just don't come too far. Keep the elbows soft, shoulders relaxed. So it's funny, the hip joints, isn't it? And kind of the whole low back area. It's so different from person to person. I notice this a lot, and it's a lot to do with fascia and where you might have tight areas in the fascia. It's a lot to do with the shape of your joints and your hip sockets. It's to do with sort of natural flexibility as well. But usually when we find one lot of stuff quite easy, the other stuff's hard. So there's always a trade-off, isn't there? And it took a long time for me to get any openness in the hips at all, by the way. And I know a lot of us get very frustrated about that. Okay, we're going to come back up. Find cow face from there, so that right foot comes further to the right. Stack the left knee just as much as you can. Adjust. And then take the arms up, inhale. And then exhale, come forward to your degree again. So it might be totally different this side, my tighter side. It's interesting actually, when you really start to notice the differences, and that we are not symmetrical, are we? And we're never going to be. But we try to work symmetrically, that's the thing, and we try to even out those imbalances. But interestingly, I'm much, much tighter on the left side with all of this stuff. But I'm also much stronger. So when we do those challenging moves where we're using the hip flexors, I'm much weaker on the right. So there's always a trade-off. Okay, and then inhaling to come up, and we can come straight to that twist from here. So just adjusting so that the left foot comes down, and then hook the right elbow, left hand behind you, gently twist. Right side ribs to the inside of the left thigh, left side ribs draw forward, left shoulder draws back, gaze over it. And then inhaling to look forward, exhaling to release. And then we'll come down onto our back. So just support yourself as you come down. Come in a nice straight line, bring the knees in. Give yourself a squeeze, whatever, a bit of a back massage if you need to. And then find Savasana, so lying flat. If you can lie flat, I thought we were about 20 minutes in there. I obviously talk way too much. Lie flat if you can lie flat. Release the jaw. Relax your throat. And just let go. Just observing your inhales and your exhales. And just follow the waves of your breath. And then notice how they relax you. And now just starting to bring your awareness back. Gently moving fingers and toes. Taking a nice long inhale, having a stretch, so arms can come up overhead, you could interlace fingers, have a full body stretch. You could bend up the knees, bring them into the chest, give yourself a hug, take a twist, so whatever. And then when you're ready, making your way to your right hand side. Just take a moment and then easing your way back up to seated. So any seated position, cross legs if you can, and then just take a moment to relax your pelvis again, relax your shoulder, bring the hands towards the heart center, and just observe how your body feels. Taking a nice long full inhale through the nose. Cleansing breath out through the mouth. Namaste. Thank you. Sorry about my internet. It's Friday. It must be shopping day in my neighbourhood, mustn't it? I hope that was okay. I hope that was
Perfect.
for us. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the beautiful day.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thanks, Caroline. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.